My husband is a hockey coach, and 10-year-old hockey is legit. Like, it is a whole thing. So we were screaming all weekend, and now I have no voice. But they're worth it. They're amazing. It's so nice to meet you guys. I am Brandi Lea of Beauty for Ashes, Uganda. And my story started with stories, a lot like we're talking about now. In fact, earlier you asked about what stories and books impacted us. So as a little girl, I loved to read. Like, I was like nerd level reader. Okay, so I always had a book in my hand. And my parents' rule was for every 2 mystery novels, Nancy Drew, thank you very much, novels that you read, I had to read a missionary novel. And through that, I fell in love with the world. As a little girl, I know other girls might have dreamed of like Prince Charming and castles, or I don't know what they were dreaming about. And I was dreaming of Africa. I was dreaming of mud huts and thatched roofs and lands I had never explored. And then I did really nothing about that. It's just my dream as a little girl. And then nothing came until I sort of accidentally started a nonprofit in 2011. It wasn't a plan. And in fact, I had gone to Uganda a year after I'd adopted my son from Liberia. And I remember being in Liberia in 2007 and them opening the door of the plane. Actually, in Ghana was our first stop. And opening the door of the plane and me thinking, I'm home. Like, this was my dream as a little girl, and I'm actually in Africa. And I felt like I was losing my mind. Here was my dream come true. And then life happened, and I found myself divorced, alone, having lost everything and everyone, and pretty sure that the lies that were being spoken over me, directly to me, were true. Lies that said that I couldn't do anything. I was now a single mom of a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 6-year-old, processing trauma with crazy PTSD. And so I believed the lies. But I went to therapy like it was my job. And eventually, I began to heal. And as a part of my healing process, I began to dream again. And I read this book by Nicholas Kristof called Half the Sky. Has anybody read that? It's so good. Everybody should read it. Like, write it down right now. Half the Sky. It's about the oppression of women worldwide. So it's not like a beach read necessarily. It's pretty heavy. But I found myself intrigued. He talks in the book about sort of rooftop ideas of how you can change the world. And then he talks about grassroots ideas. And he began to talk about women's cooperatives in the developing world. And that if we can go into the developing world and we can empower women, then they will change their communities. And honestly, I read the book thinking I would do nothing and was just like, yeah, rah, rah. Like, that sounds amazing. I should follow some people on Facebook who do that. And then he started talking about education, which you've heard already about tonight. And I heard the fact that a girl in sub-Saharan Africa had less than a 20% chance of even going to secondary school. And that number is completely different if you are orphaned or if you are the child of a single mother. Well, a month after I read that book, my friend, Akwango and Grace Alotu, my Ugandan friend, calls me and she says, we are supposed to start something. And I tell her, no, I'm not starting anything because I'm a single mom and God doesn't use me in that way anymore. She said, really? Because I really want to do women's cooperatives. And I said, well, okay, so I kind of want to do that with you, but I don't want to start a nonprofit. Well, fast forward 8 years now, and that's what we do, women's cooperatives. So we have the privilege and the honor of working in Soroti, Uganda, which is sort of north central Uganda in rural villages. And we get to work in 34 villages. And now, after saying I wasn't going to start a nonprofit at all, we have 41 women's cooperatives and 1,230 mamas in our program. So, right? I definitely didn't plan on that. But we have the privilege of going into villages and finding single moms and widows that want to meet together and that want to change their own futures. So what they're doing is they're meeting in groups of 30. So 30 moms are going to get together weekly, and they're going to encourage each other, they're going to empower each other, and they're going to pool their own resources. So what they're doing is they're bringing like the equivalent of 50 cents every week, and they're putting it in what they call their lady bank. And that fund is growing larger and larger. And then they're giving loans to each other because we believe that they are the ones that are going to change each other's lives. So that's still the core of what we do. But then we realized that our moms hadn't gone to school either. And that it's really hard to grow a business if you can't count, because then you're getting cheated at the market. And so we started what we call Literacy Plus. So now our moms go to school 2 to 3 times a week. They're very proud of this. Some of the groups have made their own uniforms because they said we are schoolgirls now. And they're super thrilled with it. And they go to school 2 to 3 times a week to learn reading, writing, basic math, sanitation, hygiene, nutrition, agriculture, and business. And now they're changing their lives. Now they know math, and so they're saying, I'm not getting cheated at the market because I know profit and loss. And if I don't, one of the sisters in my group does, and she's going to come tell me I'm not doing my business right, and that's going to change. So we are getting the opportunity to see Ugandans change Ugandans' lives. And that when they work together, we recognize that we are better together. And our mantra is, you are loved and you are worth loving. And our moms say it to each other, Mina ijo, busa kanita mina ijo, in Ateso. And they say it to us when we greet each other, and we say it to the people that we get to walk with. Because we believe in mutually transformative relationships. We're not there to change Uganda. We're there to learn and to see a greater picture of beauty because of who they are and because of their stories. And in the process, we get to start a school fund and send some of our moms' kids to school. So we have 1,000 kids in our school fees program going to secondary and vocational school and 175 university students. And then we get to find out that our moms don't have water. So we do clean water projects in each of our villages. And then we run across kiddos whose mama and their dad may have passed away, orphaned in this world, but we say, no way, we don't use that term. And so those 47 kiddos are ours. And I have the honor of them calling me mama and Nick papa, and we get to put them in foster families and get to make sure that they go to boarding school. Our real hope is to see long-term sustainability and deep healing so that every mama we work with, every kiddo we work with, and every person who comes in contact with us knows that they are deeply loved and absolutely worth loving. So that's what we get to do.